Hello,
He's Oliver,
she's Lucy,
and you're listening to Anyway Movies,
the podcast of film fanatics and movie maniacs.
the podcast of discussions, debates, and occasional distractions as we talk about all things cinema.
If you like what you hear, be sure to like our Facebook page and follow us on podcasting platforms.
Big shout out to my sister Molly for creating the logo and images for our podcast. Give her a follow on Instagram at _Molly_Joanne_.
Now that's all out of the way, dim the lights, turn the projector on, and let's start the episode. Hi Lucy.
Hello, Oliver.
Are you sad and bitter and lonely on Valentine's Day?
Very much so. How about you, my lonely friend?
I mean, yeah, it's sad. I just, bundle myself up in blankets, get a big cup of ice cream.
Fair enough. Is that how every single Valentine's Day goes for you?
Oh no, that's just every day.
So, hello, welcome back to another episode of Anyway Movies. Now, on Sunday, it's Valentine's Day, isn't it, Oliver?
It is.
So, me and Oliver thought that it would be a really fun episode to just talk about some of the films that we think are perfect for single people.
Because we know a lot about that.
We have personal experience.
We are the most qualified.
So, yeah, we're just going to be splitting people up. No, we're not going to be doing that.
You wonder why you're single.
No, we are not going to be splitting people up today. That's for another episode. Today, we're going to be splitting our films up into different categories. So me and Oliver basically have 3 different films each that we want to talk about. And they all focus on a certain category of romance, I guess.
Yeah, the idea is when it comes to singles on Valentine's Day, you've got the people who just want to have something really feel good and cheery to watch, which is our first category. Some people who just want anti-romance, which is the second category. And then even if you're single, it doesn't mean you can't like a rom-com or some kind of romantic film. And so we're going to throw that one in there as well.
It's going to be really fun, so please listen on and be aware that there will maybe be brief spoilers. So if we mention a movie that you don't want to spoil for yourself, feel free to skip ahead so you don't spoil anything for yourself.
And to all my singles out there, we're in this together.
We're with you. So do you want to start with yours, Oliver? Your first film?
Okay, my first film for the feel-good category is Mamma Mia.
Yes.
Yeah. Just to preface, we did talk about what movies we're going to talk about beforehand, just so we didn't have the same movies. And I was so excited. When we came up with the categories, this was the first movie that jumped into my head because Mamma Mia is my go-to feel-good film. Whenever I'm sad or I'm down or I'm just in need of a little bit of a pick-me-up, I can always guarantee that it's just, you've got Meryl Streep and Julie Walters and Christine Baranski. Is that how you say her last name?
I wouldn't know, but I know who you mean.
Well, Donna, Rosie, and Tanya then.
Yeah, there you go.
3 iconic women playing 3 iconic characters.
Rosie is one of my dream roles in musical theatre, so...
Rosie is who you are exactly right now.
Really, I relate to her so much.
I feel like you're the Rosie in our friendship. I'm the Tanya, and we just need a Donna.
Yes, we're looking for a Donna. We're looking for our Meryl.
We hold auditions on the 18th. Please come with a scene memorized and a solo song thanking you.
And your Oscar speech.
Oh, of course.
Don't forget the Oscar speech.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's one of those movies where not a lot happens, but it doesn't need to have like a super deep plot or super hard hitting scenes. It's just genuinely light-hearted, fun, you know, the hijinks of not knowing which of three men is your baby daddy. And obviously, you go into a bit more detail and backstory in the second Mamma Mia, and I do love the second Mamma Mia. But to keep it more focused, I do want to just say the first one.
You just can't go wrong with it.
You can't. I go through a roller coaster of emotions, honestly, when I watch this film. Like, majority of the time, I'm just laughing. But then, one scene that always makes me laugh is when I don't even think it's supposed to be funny, but when Meryl and Piers Brosnan sing SOS. I just
Yes.
think that whole song is just funny, just because
Run your car.
it's just the way that it transitions into the song, and
It's so cheesy.
where are those happy days? They seem so hard to find. And then her face is like, "What are you doing?"
No, my dad always makes fun of Pierce Brosnan in Mamma Mia. I mean, my dad hates Mamma Mia anyway, but the one thing that he always pins up on is Pierce Brosnan. It's actually quite funny.
See, my granddad loves Mamma Mia solely because the majority of the cast aren't really singers,
Mm.
but it kind of adds to the feel of the movie.
I do. I think the exact same thing. I think the reason why it's so good is because it's full of people who don't really have much singing talent, but you can tell that they are all having an absolute blast. So you kind of see past it.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of people who can sing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Tanya, obviously. I mean, she was in Chicago. She has to be able to sing. She was in Into the Woods.
Yes.
So yeah, that's my first feel-good film. Mamma Mia. Absolutely love it.
Okay, so my feel good film is a film that I don't think a lot of people have seen, but it's called Isn't It Romantic? And it's a Netflix original. I know, don't hate on it yet.
Oh,
So I watched this film when it came out. The one thing that people should know about me is that I hate rom-coms. I hate them. It's not for me. I don't like romance movies in general. I'd much rather watch something else. But for some reason, I just wanted a film to cheer me up. And I watched the trailer for Isn't It Romantic? And it's basically about Rebel Wilson's character who whacks her head and then she finds herself in a rom com. And she's basically grown up her whole life thinking that no one could ever love her because she's not the conventional size 6 model that everybody seems to fall for in these movies. So she's basically grown up thinking that a hot guy could never love her. And then she whacks her head, and Liam Hemsworth comes in, and he is head over heels in love with her.
see, when I whack my
And
head, Liam Hemsworth doesn't come and show up to me.
so yeah, and it's just a really fun watch. Like, it's not the best movie of all time. I'm not going to sit here and say it's perfect, but my god, it made me feel amazing afterwards. And it also features the best, one of the cheesiest endings I've ever seen. And it's where the entire cast are as themselves and they are singing Express Yourself by Madonna. And it's just like a massive music video. And Liam Hemsworth starts playing a trumpet. It's just an absolute ride, Oliver. It's a ride.
I've watched it.
Have you seen it? What did you think?
I agree that it's not the best movie. I do agree that it's a good laugh. Again, if all it took to get Liam Hemsworth to show up is to whack my head. I mean, relatable. But like that ending scene, like I can't. I've only watched it once, and it was a while ago. And if I remember correctly, I wasn't sure if I genuinely loved it or if I was just cringing so hard that it would. I sort of went back. Like when something's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Like I feel like specifically for that ending part, I feel like this is so bad it's good.
I mean, I think my whole thing with this film is that it was one night, I was kind of low. I wanted to watch something that was going to cheer me up, and it delivered. So I'm not going to sit here and, even though it isn't like the best film, I'm not going to criticize it because in the end, it gave me exactly what I wanted at that period of time, and it just made me feel amazing. And it's so funny in places, and actually has a very unpredictable ending. Like Rebel Wilson and Liam Hemsworth do not get together. They don't do
Oh,
it.
see,
And I thought that I thought that was going to be the
oh, I
ending.
saw that a
But no,
mile off. Yeah, I knew.
really. Because usually in rom coms it's the boy and the girl who end up together and get married. But no, it was Rebel Wilson and Adam Devine, which I did not see coming at all. I was like, oh, that's so cute. That's actually a really nice way to wrap it
It
all up.
might just be because me and my granddad are both obsessed with the Pitch Perfect movies. That like I was
Ah,
like, oh, these two are in a movie. They're definitely going to end up together. Also, the ending scene when she runs into the church and like she's stopping the wedding, but she's stopping the wedding because she's finally found enough self love. I
yeah.
thought it was kind of a bit ham fisted, but at the same time, I do kind of like the whole stop the wedding because I love myself.
Oh, I just love it. It's so wacky, funny, and it's clear that everyone's having a good time. So it delivered what I wanted. So I'm not going to knock it. It's just a really good feel good romantic film, and I think that a single person could happily enjoy it.
So, shall we move on to our anti romance movie?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so mine is arguably one of the weirdest movies I have ever seen. It was a trip. Beetlejuice. My mum likes Beetlejuice, and she hadn't seen it in a while, and I had never watched it. So this past Halloween, we had a bit of a movie night, and one of the movies was Beetlejuice. So we were sat there getting a bit pissed,
Fair enough, as you do.
eating a bunch of cake and sweets, watching Beetlejuice, and it was one of those movies where like I understood what was going on, but like so much was going on. It wasn't hard to keep up, but it was just so much going on. I was like, oh, this is happening. Oh, this is happening. Oh, this is happening. And well, the reason it's my anti-romance movie is, well, if you didn't know, the whole premise of Beetlejuice is he's trying to escape and get freedom into the real world, in a sense. And to do that, he needs to marry a girl. He pulls a lot of shenanigans, shall we say. But honestly, I do have like a gripe with this movie, like a gripe that I'm very passionate about.
What
Okay,
is it?
so a big point in the movie is that to summon him, you have to say his name 3 times, but he can't tell you his name because it doesn't work. So in the start of the movie, when it's advertised, it's saying that his name is Betelgeuse, and
Yeah.
then halfway through, it suddenly changes to Beetlejuice, and there's no clear reason why. And like me and my dad had to do some like thorough research just to find out why, and it was purely because of the fact that he can't say his own name. In the advert, he does say his name, which is it's. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't like piss me off, but it just I've had a gripe with it ever since I've watched the movie, and I've not been able to let it go since. October last year.
You just notice it every time you watch it now.
It's one of those things where I won't really be thinking about it, and then it'll just pop into my head. I'm like, why is this a thing? It doesn't make sense. And then I'm like, well, nothing in this movie makes sense really. So why is that the one thing you hung up about? And the whole scene when they're trying to prove that the house is haunted, and then they do the song around the table. Dale,
Oh yes,
Dale,
that is such a good scene. Oh my god.
they like a man who wanna go home. Like I had heard of this scene, and that was the one scene that my mum really wanted me to watch. Like she was excited for me to see that scene, and it happened. And when it started, when it started, I found it a little bit cringy. But the longer it went on, the funnier it got. And by the end of it, I was genuinely enjoying it. And when it ended, I was like, "Oh, that's it! I wanted the scene to carry on."
I wonder how that sort of translated on Broadway, because they made a Broadway
Yeah,
musical of Beetlejuice. So I'm wondering if that song is a massive, like, 10-minute number. Because that is the ideal musical song, isn't
if it
it?
isn't at least a 10-minute number, then I'm sorry, but then what was the point? Forget about the kooky, crazy storyline. Forget about the insane like costume and set design possibilities. If that scene did not translate well to the Broadway show, what was the point?
I agree.
Also, just to jump back on that, like the costume design for this movie is insane.
I just want Beetlejuice's outfit. We
My
wear
mum
that.
dressed up as him for a costume party like 10 years ago or something. Yeah,
Really?
that was actually probably the first time I'd ever seen Beetlejuice was when my mum dressed up as him.
Ah, yeah, you needed some
I was
context.
like, what? I was like, what if?
Did she do the whole makeup
Yeah,
look?
yeah,
Green
she had
hair?
the crazy green, spiky up wig, black around the eyes, pale face, stripy suit. I think she put white on her hands and stuff as well. And then, like, the whole night, she was in character. So
That is dedication.
she really gets into her characters. Like another time, she dressed up as Maleficent, and she really got into that character. And then for another one, she dressed up as Cyndi Lauper.
Wow,
My
okay.
mum likes fancy dress, is what I'm saying. So yeah, that's my anti-romance movie. It's just a right laugh, and it's all over the place. And the main bulk is him trying to get married so he can be free, and manipulating people and lying and scaring people. And it's weird and kooky and at times a bit disgusting and it's all over the place and it's just the best. I love it.
That is anti-romance if I've ever heard it.
I mean, not that I know, but I think some people would say that's romance as well.
Just having a normal conversation, like there's nothing big that happens between them both during the relationship that makes us think, oh, these are great for
I mean,
each
like
other.
there are little moments like the party scene when he's like playing in the band and then she shows up and she starts doing that weird dance.
So my anti-romance film, I've chosen La La
Mm,
Land for the sole purpose that Seb and Mia as characters don't end up together, and they kind of sacrifice their romance in order to pursue their dreams. So I guess they have a love for their passions and careers, I
yeah,
guess. But in terms of personal relationships, they decide to leave theirs behind in order to get what they want. And that is definitely an anti romance story because, like they made such a good couple, I think. They were both very flawed people, but they sort of covered their flaws together, like with each other. I mean, it did get a bit weird in some places when he was always off touring and then she didn't want him to tour, which completely went against everything that they'd talked about
yeah.
previously. So I guess I saw it coming that they weren't going to end up together by that point. But yeah, it was the first film I thought of really as an anti romance story because it is a love story, La La Land, but in the end, you find out that it's not a love story between Seb and Mia. It's a love story between their careers, and in the end, that's kind of what drives them apart.
Can I be honest? I didn't feel much chemistry between them.
Okay, I completely get that because obviously they don't really have a lot of romantic scenes together, and if they do, it's often told in
Yeah,
montages. The other scenes we see them in are them either arguing or oh yeah, oh my god, I love
and
that
I'm
scene so much.
like, it's cringy, but it's supposed to be cringy.
I mean, I guess the most romantic scene, if you can call it that, in the movie is the scene when they're at the I can't remember what it's called, the
Yeah,
planetarium, and they do that dance in the stars. That was really cute. But I think apart from that, everything you see of them, I guess, is them arguing, which, you know, it's not a
they
good
don't
look.
communicate well with each other.
I am having a whole new outlook now. They basically only talk about what they love in each of their arguments. They don't really have an interest in what the other person
very
wants because they always drive the conversation back to
very
themselves.
anti-romantic.
So yeah, very anti-romantic. So our third and final category is just a pure romantic film that we just think that every single person can appreciate.
Yeah. Okay, so mine is 10 Things I Hate About You.
Now, I've heard a lot about this film, but I've actually never seen it.
I love it. So, for those who don't know, if you went to high school, you probably do. It's a 1999 rom-com based off of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. I love it so much. The first time I watched it was in high school, I think year 9 or year 10, so I was like 14-ish. I've never been a rom-com person. Like, I can watch them, but they're never my go-to choice. There's always other films that I would much rather go and see or
Yeah.
like spend my time with. So when we watched it in class, I wasn't really expecting much. I was just happy not to have to write anything, to be honest. And I genuinely really enjoyed it. And like, I hadn't watched it since then. And then I watched it again, like maybe a year ago. And I was like, I forgot how much I actually liked this. And then I watched it a couple months back. And then I watched it again last night. And then I ended up watching it again this morning just before recording because of how much I like it.
Oh,
Um, I will say that because it's a 99 film, some aspects of it, like dialogue esque, hasn't aged the best.
yeah.
Um, the R word is used for disabled people,
Mm.
um, but it's still very charming, and the cast is great. Heath Ledger as Patrick Verona,
Oh, very on the nose.
yeah, and then Julia Stiles as Cat Stratford, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So yeah, so some pretty good names in there, sprinkle them in. And just the whole premise is, well, you know Taming of the Shrew, right?
I know of it.
The dad won't let his youngest daughter, Bianca, um, get married because he's an overprotective father. And so they make a deal that basically says you can get married when your older sister, Kat, can, because she's very bombastic. She's very angry. She doesn't care about what other people think of her. She doesn't listen to what people say. She'll do her own thing. She's argumentative. So the whole reason he says that is because he doesn't think anyone would ever want to marry her. So then translate that into the year 1999. It's at a high school and it's you can't date anyone until your older sister can date someone.
Ah.
Um, and well, I'm sure you've seen the scene of Heath Ledger running across the bleachers or whatever they're called, singing "Can't Take My Eyes Off You."
Oh yeah, I've seen that scene.
He,
Like I've seen parts of the film, but I've never actually seen the film itself.
I actually like watching it recently. I forgot like it's very like stereotypical teenage rom-com stuff, like overprotective father, the popular bad boys, and like the bitchy popular girls. The idea that sex is super important at that age and all that kind of thing. But when you get down to it, it's actually quite an easy to follow, very light-hearted movie. And the father, though he's a bit of a stereotype, like there are actually some real moments with him. Well, the thing is, the reason he doesn't want his daughters to have boyfriends is because he's a doctor and he helps ladies give birth. And so he's like, there's one scene when before his daughter goes to a party, he makes her put on a pregnancy belly and walk around the house
Oh my god.
just to know what will happen if she thinks about pulling anything. But like, there's some really good family moments where it's just him genuinely being concerned for his daughters, and it's just the idea that because their mum left them, so he's tried his best to sort of keep the family together, and he's always tried to sort of play in their court, and because he's very overprotective. He doesn't always do it in the best way, and he's always more like demanding what he wants rather than open conversation. So there's a bit of growth with that side of it. There's the actual romance side between Heath Ledger's character Patrick and Julia's character Kat, where they're both very much outcasts. They both like they have rumors spread about them. They don't really care what other people think about them. And the only reason he asks her out and tries to get with her is because he's basically being paid to. But it's that whole like, I'm doing it because there's something in it for me. But then he ends up actually really connecting with her, and they actually start to fall for each other. And then there's the whole scene when it all comes out, and she's upset, obviously. And it's the whole it was never about the money. I actually care about you. And I'm like, that doesn't change the fact that you started it for the money. And like that plot point kind of resolves itself fairly quickly, but it does lead into a really good scene where in their English class they've had to take one of Shakespeare's sonnets and write their own version of it in like a modern way, which is where the title comes from because Kat's version is 10 Things She Hates about Patrick. It's very like mundane things at the start, very simple, like, oh, I don't like the way you wear your hair, I don't like your attitude in this aspect. And then it gets emotional and it ends up with her saying, and the thing I hate about you most is that I don't hate you, not even a little bit, not at all, after everything that's happened. And it's like, it's quite sweet and it's emotional. It hits me in my feels, man. Also, Kat's younger sister, Bianca, she beats up a bully, so that's fun to watch. Like,
Amazing.
like he's been a bit of a dick throughout the whole film, and his only objective is to try and sleep with her. And so then when he goes all alpha male on Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character Cameron, because he and Bianca went to prom together, he tries to start a fight with Cameron, and then Bianca turns around, punches him in the face, knocks him over, picks him up, and then knees him in the balls. And I'm like, yes! She
Satisfying.
was like, this one is for making my date bleed. This one is for my sister. And then she grabs him and goes, and this one is for me, and then knees him in the balls. I'm like, yes!
That sounds incredible.
But
I think it's on Disney Plus, so I think I might check that out.
I just really like it. I don't know if you could tell.
My romantic film is Little Women. Now, I'm going to be talking about the 2019 version because I haven't actually seen any other adaptations. Sorry, Winona Ryder. But yeah, the 2019 version of Little Women is what I've put a romantic film done right.
Oh.
Because as someone who has never had an interest in being in a relationship, which is sort of the reason why I'm not that bitter about being single, because it's kind of always the way it has been for me. I've just never been interested in having a boyfriend. The character of Jo March is exactly the same at the start of this movie. Like, she could not care less about being betrothed to a man when she wants to become a writer, and she has big dreams of being a published author and selling millions of books and, you know, like making some sort of statement about women being independent.
Yeah.
And I really like that about her character. It's kind of an unconventional female lead in a way, because usually a female lead in a romantic movie wants love. Like, she wants a man, or she wants a woman, or she wants, you know, love, I guess. But with this one, Jo just wants a career, and I kind of like that. The reason why it's such a good romantic film is because by the end of the film, Jo March realizes that she's feeling lonely, and even though she does still have big dreams of being an author, she wants someone to share that with.
Oh.
And it's a really nice ending, and she doesn't end up with the person that everyone thinks she's going to end up with, because there is a character called Laurie, played by Timothée Chalamet, who has been in love with Jo since the beginning. Like, they've been best friends, and he's always had a thing for her, but has never had the confidence to say anything. So obviously you think, oh yeah, they're gonna end up together. Yeah, that's good. No, she turns him down, and then he ends up going out with her little sister.
Wow.
I mean, some of the things have not aged well, I have to admit.
Yeah, but
Like, story
it's a
wise,
story of the
but
time, isn't it?
it is a story of the time. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's such an unpredictable ending. Jo ends up going out with another writer, I think it is, called Frederick. He's barely in this movie. He's in like 2 scenes, and then by the end they're together, and I'm like, oh, right, okay, I wasn't expecting that. Fair enough. Obviously, Little Women is so much more than just the romantic subplot. There is a lot in it. It's not just focused on Jo's love life, but it's that aspect of it that I actually quite enjoyed, even though I don't really like romantic movies. But I've seen the scene where Laurie asks Jo to marry him. I've watched that scene so many times because it's done so well. Like, it could easily be such a cheesy scene to do, but it's just done so well from Timothy and Saoirse, and it's a wonderful. It's a wonderful film. It's great, and I think that single people can take a lot from it, especially from a character who has been single all her life and is confident as ever that she's going to succeed, which, you know, I'm kind of feeling at this moment in time. I mean, like Jo, I might feel different in a few years' time. I might feel like I might need someone, I guess. But at this moment, I don't. And Little Women taught me that that's not a wrong thing to think. So that's why I love it. Ta-da!
Ta-da! Oh, that's really
Ta-da!
nice. Didn't it win an award for like costume or something?
Yeah, it won the Oscar for Best Costume Design, which I really applaud, because the costume design was amazing. Like, I wanted all of the dresses in that film. I just love the fashion of that era. It's really nice. I wish that we could still wear stuff like that now.
I mean, no one's stopping you, love.
No one is stopping me. It's just very expensive.
Yeah, that is.
It's just my purse that's stopping me, I guess.
It's them.
My person's like, no,
It's
you will wear a t-shirt
and you will
jeans.
like it.
So yeah, this has been another episode of our podcast about romantic films that me and Olva don't really watch that much, but the ones that we do watch are quite good sometimes. Yeah. Romantic films can be good, even if you're single and alone.
Romantic films can be good, even if you're single and alone. Quote that. Put it on a t-shirt.
I will, yeah. I'll put it on a vintage dress. There
Ooh.
you go. Just mix a few things in there.
I quite like this. It was easy, light-hearted, chilled.
And that is how Valentine's Day is for every single person. It's just either chilled or envious of all of the posts that they see of people online. And obviously Valentine's Day won't exactly be the same this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know because we are recording this a month in advance pretty much. But I'm guessing that by Valentine's Day, restaurants will not be open. There won't be many things open to people. So even if someone is in a relationship at this time, they might not be with the person that they're with. So even to those people, we stand with you as well. Even if you're spending Valentine's Day alone, even though you're already with somebody, we'll get through this. You can have next year. It's all good. Have a nice Zoom date.
I mean, that can be romantic.
That can be romantic. Like, order each other your favourite meals from, like, your favourite takeaway place. That'd be quite nice.
And for everyone out there, I just hope you enjoyed this episode. You took something from it, whether it was just escapism, if it was just something on in the background. I mean, like, I listen to podcasts sometimes just because it's nice to feel like there's someone else in the room.
Yeah. Sometimes I listen to podcasts and I just sort of zone out, and then the episode ends and I'm like, wait, I didn't listen to a word of that. I'm playing again.
So if we could be any of those for you, I hope it helps. So with that being said, please like our Facebook page, find us on all your podcasting platforms. Obviously, you can also listen to our podcast on YouTube where there are subtitles provided by the glorious Lucy.
Thank you. I work very hard on them.
Sometimes.
You do. Sometimes I just like, that'll do.
So with that being said, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.